Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is Honorable Babu Owino, and today I'm Teacher Babu Owino. First, I would like to wish fellow Kenyans a happy Labor Day. Secondly, I would like to urge Kenyans to adhere to the COVID rules so that we can mitigate the infection of coronavirus 2019. Thirdly, I would like to take this opportunity to apologize on behalf of all those students, all those learners who are not in a position to access internet or not in a position to get smartphones so that they can follow my tutorials. Now, today's class, back to class. Today's class we have mathematics, and I would like to tell learners that mathematics is the easiest subject on earth. And with mathematics, we make it simpler. We solve, we find the solutions to the various challenges that is in maths. We are going to handle various topics. That is questions on differentiation, questions on trigonometry, questions on surds, questions on further logarithms, questions on algebraic expressions, and finally, questions on calculus, and basically we'll handle integration. I hope you will enjoy today as my students. Number one, we have differentiation. Question number one. Find the derivative of y equals to 3x minus 2x squared multiplied by 5 plus 4x. The first thing when you are faced with such a challenge in finding the derivative, you first of all expand the bracket. So by expanding the bracket, we have y is equal to, we take the value on this side, which is 3x, multiply by the value on the other side, which is 5 plus 4x, minus 2x cubed, 2x squared, sorry, into 5 plus 4x. Then we expand it, y is equal to 3x times 5 is 15x. 3x times 4x, we get 12x squared. X times x is x squared. 3 times 4 is 12. That's 12x squared minus 2x squared times 5. Minus 2x squared times 5 is minus 10x squared. Then minus 2x squared times plus 4x. We get 2 times 4 is 8. That is minus 8. Then x times x squared times x is x cubed. Now there's a fundamental rule that you'll just note. When you have positive multiplied by negative, you get negative. Positive multiplied by positive, you get positive. Then negative multiplied by negative, you get positive. That's why when we have minus 2x squared times plus 4x, you get minus 8x cubed. Now, our y becomes, you simplify further by collecting the two like terms. So this one we have 15x plus 12x squared minus 10x squared is 2x squared minus 8x cubed. So this is our simplified value for y. Then we are advised to find the derivative. That is differentiation. Differentiation is the gradient function. Now we are going to get y, value of y, with respect to x. That is dy dx. This is now what we call differentiation. Now when we want to differentiate, we'll differentiate every part that we have here. So we will first of all start by differentiating 15x. So in differentiating 15x, we have 15x, then x is raised to power 1. You subtract 1. Then plus 2x squared differentiated, you drop down the power 2, then you multiply by the constant 2, then we have x, then 2, you subtract 1. Minus, drop down power 3, multiply by 8, x cubed, you subtract 1. So dy dx equals to 15x raised to power 0, 1 minus 1 is 0, plus 2 times 2 is 4x, 2 minus 1 is 1, minus 3 times 8 is 24, x, 3 minus 1 is 2. So from here, we have dy dx equals to any number raised to power 0 equals to 1, or any letter raised to power 0 equals to 1. Therefore, x raised to power 0 equals to 1. So this is 15 times 1 is 15 plus 4x minus 24x squared. This is our answer. Proceeding to part B of the question. Part B of the question is a diver leaps from a diving board 34 meters above the surface of a swimming pool. So if this is the surface of a swimming pool, then a diver leaps from a diving board 32 meters above the surface of a swimming pool at time t seconds. His position h above the surface of the swimming pool is given by h equals to 32 plus 16t minus 16t squared. Now the first part of this question wants, find the time he took to hit the surface of the water. Find the time he took to hit the water surface. So when the diver dives from here, hits the water surface. If this is water, if the diver hits the water surface, at the water surface, height is 0 at this surface. Therefore, if they want the time taken for the diver to hit the water surface, we replace the height with 0. So here is 0 equals to 32 plus 16t minus 16t squared. With this equation, we can simplify it further because we have a common value here, 16. So we divide by 16. 0 divided by 16 is 0 equals to 32 divided by 16 is 2 plus 16t divided by 16 is t minus 16 divided by 16 is t. 16t squared divided by 16 is t squared. So from here, we can multiply all the values by -1 so that at least we start our equation by the highest value of t, which is t squared. So when you multiply this by -1, you get t squared. You multiply -1 times t, you get minus t. Then -1 times 2, you get -2 equals to 0. So with our value here, we factorize this value. This is a quadratic expression. So in factorizing the quadratic expression, we look for two numbers that when you multiply gives you -2. But when you add the two numbers, gives you -1 or -1t, -1. So the numbers are 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and -2. So here in factorizing, we have t squared plus t minus 2t minus 2 equals to 0. Then we have this and we have that first part of the equation, second part of the equation. We factor t out because t is common in the first part. Therefore, t into t squared, you get t. T into t, you get plus 1 minus, the common factor here is 2, into 2 into 2t is t. Then 2 into minus 2 into minus 2 is plus 1 equals to 0. Because we have in our bracket, you can see clearly we have a common factor of t plus 1. So we are going to collect the common factor of t plus 1, and then you pick t minus 2, you equate to 0. So t plus 1 equals to 0, and t minus 2 equals to 0. Therefore, t here equals to 2. When 2 crosses the other side becomes 2. When negative 2 crosses becomes positive 2. And here when positive 1 crosses the other side becomes negative 1. So we have t is equal to negative 1 and we have t is equal to 2. Both are in seconds. But we can see one of the values is negative 1. So time cannot be negative. Therefore, this is not practical. So time cannot be negative, cannot be equal to. This means not equal to negative. So we go with the value of t equals to 2, but you write the SI units of time is in seconds. So that is the first part of the equation. That is the time he took to hit the water surface. So at the water surface, the time is 2 seconds. Then the next part of the equation is find the velocity at which he hit the water surface. So I want you to get this in mind as time is equal to 2 seconds. So we want to find the velocity at which he hit the water surface. From our initial equation, h is equal to 32 plus 16t minus 16t squared. Velocity is given by change in displacement. This sign means change. Change in displacement divided by change in time. So when we want to get the velocity here, change in velocity, change in displacement over change in time. We have displacement or the height as h. So when our height is h, we just differentiate h with respect to t. So that is dh dt is equal to, when you differentiate, is equal to the velocity. So when you differentiate 32, you get 0. Plus, when you differentiate, you get 0. Plus, when you differentiate 16t, you drop 1 down. That is 1 into 16. You multiply by the constant. Then t, 1 minus 1. Minus, you drop 2 down. That is 2 into 16. T into 2 minus 1. You subtract 1. Now, dh dt, which is our velocity, equals to, this is 16t raised to power 0 minus 32t raised to power 1, which is still the same as 32t. Therefore, our velocity is equal to any numbers I told you earlier, or any letter raised to power 0 is 1. Therefore, velocity is 16 minus 32t. But the question is telling us, you find the value of this velocity, when at which he hit the water surface. But we remember that at the water surface, the time taken to hit the water surface were 2 seconds. So t is equal to 2 seconds. So where there is t, you replace with 2. So therefore, velocity is equal to 16 minus 32 times 2 seconds. You get 16 minus 64. So velocity is equal to minus 48. 16 minus 64 is minus 48 meters per second. But because it is negative, you write your answer as velocity equals to 48 meters per second. Retardation. It was retardation. To take care of the negative, because he was slowing as he was going down. He was not, the velocity wasn't increasing. So it's retardation. Now, we proceed to our next question, question number 2. The displacement from a fixed point of a particle in motion at any time t seconds is given by, displacement s is given by t cubed minus 5 over 2 t squared plus 2t plus 5. The value is in meters. Find its acceleration after t seconds. Find acceleration after t seconds. Acceleration is given by change in velocity from the mathematical formulas divided by change in time. But velocity, we saw earlier also, is given by change in displacement divided by change in time. Therefore, for us to get acceleration, we will have to get velocity first. We have to get velocity first. So for us to get velocity when we are given displacement s, we differentiate. We differentiate s with respect to t. Therefore, we will have ds dt, which will give us the velocity. So the velocity becomes, when you differentiate t cubed, you bring 3 down into t, then 3 minus 1, minus, bring 2 down, that is 2 into 5 divided by 2, t into 2 minus 1, plus 2t 1 minus 1. When you differentiate any number, you get 0, plus 0. Therefore, we have ds dt, which is our velocity, equals to 3t squared. 3 minus 2 is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. Minus 2 can cancel with 2. You get 5. T raised to power 1, which is 5t. Plus 2t raised to power 0. T raised to power 0 is 1. Therefore, 1 times 2 is 2. So this is our velocity. Now, we know our velocity is 3t squared minus 5t plus 2. We want to find the acceleration. And we said acceleration is change in velocity divided by change in time. Therefore, for us to get the acceleration, we are going to further differentiate the velocity, which will give us dv dt. So this gives us the acceleration, equals to, further differentiate this, you bring 2 down, multiply by 3, then t squared minus 1, minus 5 into t1 minus 1. This is 0. So our acceleration equals to 6t minus, this is 6t raised to power 1, which is 60, minus 5t raised to power 0 is 5, because we say that t raised to power 0 is 1. So this is our acceleration. But what is the question saying? Find the acceleration after t seconds, because the question is not specific within which time. Therefore, we just say the acceleration is given by 60 minus 5, but the units is very important. The SI unit of acceleration is meters per second squared. Meters per second, which is meters per second squared. The part B of the question says that find the velocity when acceleration is 0. When acceleration is 0, where is our acceleration? This is our acceleration, the equation. So at this point, when acceleration is 0, we have 60 minus 5. We want to find the value of t. T is equal to, when 5 crosses the other side becomes positive, 60 is equal to 5. This gives us t, value of t, as 5 over 6 seconds. But this is t, although the question wants velocity when acceleration is 0. Therefore, velocity from our question is here. Let me come here. Velocity from our equation is here, 3t squared minus 5t plus 2. From here, velocity is equal to 3, but the value of our t is 5 divided by 6. It's squared, minus 5 into 5 divided by 6 plus 2. So from here, our velocity equals to 3. 5 divided by 6. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. Minus 5 times 5 is 25 over 6 plus 2. So velocity is equal to 3 goes here once, 3 goes here 12 times. So we have 25 over 12 minus 25 over 6 plus 2 over 1. You can either use a calculator to solve this or get the LCM of 12, 6, and 1. Least common multiple, which is 12. 12 goes into 12 once times 25 is 25 minus 12 into 6 into 12 twice times 25 is 50 plus 1 goes into 12 times 2 is 24. When you simplify this, velocity is equal to 25 plus 24 is 49 minus 50 divided by 12. So velocity is equal to minus 1 over 12 meters per second. And remember, I told you when the velocity is negative, it means that the body is retardating. So you write velocity is 1 over 12 meters per second, but you write retardation. So we are done with the questions on differentiation. Our next question is on trigonometry. So question number 3. Trigonometry, we are told to solve the equation sine of 2 theta plus 10 equals to negative 0.5. But we are further advised for the values of theta less than 0, less than or equal to 0, and not greater than 2 pi radians. This sign means pi radians. So we want to find the values of theta. Number 1, find an angle whose sine is 0.5. Find an angle whose sine is 0.5. So which angle is that? From your 4-figure elementary mathematical table, if you can get an angle from the calculator, the angle whose sine is 0.5, that angle is 30 degrees. Therefore, the first thing we do is to identify all the quadrants where that angle lies. But remember, we have negative here. So when we draw the quadrants, we say all, when I was in my Form 4, I used to remember it as all Christians terrorizing Satan. Or all students take coffee. Not Changa, don't put here as Changa. So this angle is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees, this angle is 180 degrees, this angle is 270 degrees, and this angle again is 360 degrees. So this quadrant circle, we want to find an angle, all the quadrants where the sine is negative. So in quadrant number 1, this is all angles. This one is sine, this is tangent, this is cosine. So all angles in the first quadrant, all trigonometric functions in first quadrant, they are all positive. Sine is only positive in the second quadrant, tangent is positive in third, cosine is positive in fourth. But sine is positive only in the first and the second quadrant, although it is negative in the third and the fourth quadrant. So our angle 30 degrees lies somewhere here. So if our angle is lying here 30 degrees, we cannot write it as 30 degrees because 30 degrees is only positive in the first quadrant. Therefore, in the third quadrant, we will make a half a rotation to reach where that 30 is, half plus 30 degrees. So when you make a half a rotation, that is 180 degrees plus 30, you get 210 degrees. Therefore, 2 theta plus 10, our first angle is 180 plus 30, which is 210. Our second angle, if we say that sine, if the angle is 30 degrees, what is the value of this angle? That is 360 minus 30 degrees. You get 330 degrees. Then something interesting, you make one complete rotation. Then you add to the available angles, so that we get all the angles, because we've been told that our theta is greater than 0 but less than 2 pi radians. So when you take 360 and you add 210, you get 570, which is another angle. And then you add 360 here, you get 690, which is our other angle. These are in degrees. Therefore, when we open this, we get 2 theta equals to, when 10 crosses the other side, becomes 200, because it is 210 minus 10. 330 minus 10 is 320. 570 minus 10 is 560. And finally, 690 minus 10 is 680. They are in degrees. Therefore, theta is equal to, divide everything by 2, 2 into 200, 100 degrees. 2 into 320 is 160 degrees. 2 into 560 is 280 degrees. And 2 into 680 is 340 degrees. These are the answers. But remember, we are told to write our answers in pi radians. Common rule in maths, 1 pi radian equals to 180 degrees. When you move from 0 to 180 degrees, you've made a pi radian. Therefore, we want to convert this. If 180 degrees equals to pi radians, what about all these angles? What about 100? What about 160? What about 280? What about 340 degrees? So you realize that we'll be multiplying 100 times pi, divide by 180. 160 times pi radians, divide by 180. 280 times pi radians, divide by 180. 340 times pi radians, divide by 180. So we divide all these angles by 180. So we'll have 100 divided by 180, 160 divided by 180, 280 divided by 180, and finally 340 divided by 180. They're in degrees. So when we simplify this further, 2 here 5, 2 here 9. So you get 5 over 9 pi, 2 here 8, 2 here 9. 8 over 9 pi radians, 2 here 9, 2 here 14. 14 over 9 pi radians, 2 here 9, 2 here 17. 17 over 9 pi radians. So this is our final answer, which is in the range of theta being greater than 0, but being less than 2 pi radians. So you leave your answer in pi radians. So we can proceed to the next question. If I were to mark this just a little bit, assuming that I'm an examiner also, my first question I would give you for identifying that angle as method 1. My first method 1. Number 2, I would reward you for getting all the angles, which is method 2. Number 3, I would reward you for the conversion, the process of converting, which is method 3. And then finally, answer 1. So in this question, you would harvest 4 marks. So learners, candidates, you can see maths is like eating yams. It's very easy. Very easy, just like reciting vowels or snatching a lollipop from a baby. We proceed to our next question. Still on trigonometry. Question number 4. We are told to solve the equation 4 sine x equals to 5 minus 4 cos cos squared x. But we are told for angles between 0 degrees, x is less than or equal to 0 degrees, and the same x is greater than or equal to 0 degrees, and the same x is less than or equal to 360 degrees. When you meet such a question, first of all, you smile, because it's an easy solve. The first thing you do, you are going to use trigonometric identities. Again, it's in your 4-figure mathematical tables. So the identity that we are going to use here is cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals to 1. Why are we introducing the identity? Because we have two different unknowns. We have cosine and we have cosine